The story everyone tells about Chris Kyle is the story of 160 confirmed kills, 4 tours in Iraq, the Devil of Ramadi, 2 silver stars, 5 bronze stars with valor. Insurgents put a bounty on his head, called him Al-Shaitan, and missed every time they tried to collect. But here's what almost nobody talks about. Kyle didn't pull off the deadliest sniper career in American military history with 1 rifle. He did it with 2 very different weapons, built for 2 very different missions, and one of them he openly hated. The other one he said belonged in a class entirely of its own. This is the story of those 2 rifles, how they worked, why they were so deadly, and what they actually did on the streets of Fallujah and the rooftops of Ramadi. Before we break this down, if you're into deep dives like this, hit subscribe. This channel is all about the weapons, the operators, and the stories behind them. Now let's get into it. To understand the rifles, you have to understand the job. A Navy SEAL sniper in Iraq was not sitting on a hilltop 2 miles from the action with a thermos of coffee. Kyle was running urban overwatch in cities like Fallujah, Ramadi, and Sadr City. Houses stacked on houses, insurgents moving through tight alleys, Marines getting picked apart by RPG teams, and machine gunners on rooftops a few hundred meters away. That meant Kyle needed 2 things at the same time. He needed surgical precision at distances most people cannot even comprehend. And he needed a weapon he could use when an insurgent kicked through a door 10 feet in front of him. No single rifle does both jobs perfectly. So Kyle, like most SEAL snipers in that era, carried more than 1. The first of the 2 was the Mark 11 Mod 0. You have probably heard it called SR-25. The story of that rifle starts with the name every gun guy knows, Eugene Stoner. He was the man who designed the AR-15 and the M16 back in the 1950s. After leaving Armalite, Stoner kept iterating on his original AR-10 platform, the bigger 7.62 cousin of the M16. By the early 1990s, he was working with Reed Knight at Knight's Armament Company in Florida, and together they refined the rifle into something the US military could not ignore. They called it SR-25, Stoner Rifle 25. In 1999, Naval Special Warfare adopted it as the Mark 11 Mod 0. From that point on, every SEAL sniper graduating from Crane was going to know this rifle by feel. Mechanically, the Mark 11 is a scaled-up M16. It uses the same gas-operated rotating bolt design and the same general layout, but it is chambered for the 7.62 by 51mm NATO cartridge. Civilians know that round as the .308 Winchester. It has a 20-inch heavy barrel, a 20-round box magazine, a match-grade 2-stage trigger, and a free-float handguard, so the barrel harmonics do not get touched when you grab the gun under pressure. On top, Kyle ran a loopholed Mark IV 3.5 to 10 power scope with a mil-dot reticle. On the muzzle, he used the Knight's Armament Mark 11 suppressor, which became one of the most identifiable pieces of kit in the entire SEAL inventory. That suppressor knocked the rifle's signature down enough that an enemy 200 meters away would not immediately know where the shot came from. In a city like Ramadi, that delay of 1 or 2 seconds could be the difference between making the kill and getting your Overwatch position swarmed. So why did Kyle carry the Mark 11 on patrol instead of his bolt action? 3 reasons. First, it was semi-automatic. If a target moved, Kyle could put a follow-up round on him in less than a second. A bolt action requires you to lift, pull, push, and lock the bolt every single time. In a fast-moving urban firefight, that delay can get Marines killed. Second, the 7.62 NATO cartridge hits significantly harder than the 5.56 the rest of the squad was carrying. Kyle himself wrote that it generally put men down with 1 shot, even when those men were jacked up on amphetamines and adrenaline. Third, the Mark 11 could do double duty. Suppressor on for the precision shot, suppressor off for clearing a house when things went sideways. It was a sniper rifle that could pretend to be a battle rifle, and a battle rifle that could pretend to be a sniper rifle. But here's where it gets messy. Kyle, in his autobiography, did not love the Mark 11. He flat out said it was never one of his favorites. The reason came down to one word: reliability. In the dust storms and 120 degrees of heat in Anbar province, the rifle jammed. Kyle blamed the dust cover, that little spring-loaded flap supposed to keep grit out of the chamber and bolt area. He suspected dust was getting trapped between the cover and the receiver, then funneling straight into the action when he opened it. A jam at 200 yards in a controlled environment is annoying. A jam in the middle of a house clearing is fatal. Other SEAL snipers reported the same problem. The fix was discipline, constant cleaning, lube applied like it was running for office. Some shooters retired the weapon completely once they earned the trust to choose their own loadout. Which brings us to rifle number 2, and this is the one Kyle actually loved. The Mark 13 Mod 0. If the Mark 11 was the modern, gas-driven, suppressor-friendly hybrid, the Mark 13 was old-school sniper craft built into a modern package. The action of this rifle is the Remington 700. Yes, the same Remington 700 your uncle hunts deer with. That action has been the bedrock of American precision shooting for over half a century. It is simple, it is accurate, and when it is fitted into the right stock and the right barrel, it is one of the most lethal rifles ever produced. The Mark 13 takes that Remington action and drops it into a Macmillan A2 fiberglass stock. The barrel is a custom, heavy contour, 26 inches long, threaded for a suppressor, and chambered for the round Kyle would build his legend on, the 300 Winchester Magnum. The 300 Winchester Magnum is a hunting cartridge that the military borrowed for serious work. It uses a longer, heavier bullet than the 7.62 NATO, and it is loaded to a much higher pressure. The result is a flatter trajectory, more energy on target at long distance, and a useful range that punches well past 1,000 yards. For a sniper trying to engage a target across a Fallujah neighborhood without dialing 6 minutes of windage compensation, that flatter flight path matters. Kyle's exact words about the 300 were that it is in another class entirely. He used it for the majority of his confirmed kills. On top of his Mark 13, he ran a Night Force NXS scope, typically in a 5.5 to 22 power configuration. That's a serious piece of glass, eye-watering clarity, generous parallax adjustment, and reticles built specifically for ballistic holdovers. Underneath the rifle sat a Harris bipod. On the rail, the MIRS night vision mount, ready for an ANPVS-22 clip-on system when the work happened in the dark. The same Knight's armament suppressor he used on the Mark 11 could be screwed onto the muzzle because both rifles were threaded to accept the same can. That's a small detail with huge implications. One suppressor across 2 rifles means less weight to carry, less gear to maintain, and one fewer thing to track when bullets are flying. Now let's talk about what these rifles actually did. November 7th, 2004, Fallujah. Operation Phantom Fury was kicking off, the largest urban battle the Marine Corps had fought since Hue City in Vietnam. Kyle was set up on a rooftop, scanning a section of city across a railroad track and a defensive berm. The buildings were squat and dust-colored. Marines were maneuvering into the city center. About 800 meters away, an insurgent moved into position. He thought he was hidden. He was not. Kyle was looking through the Night Force on his Mark 13, settled the crosshairs, eased the trigger, and the man dropped before he could fire on the Marines. Kyle then continued scanning and killed 2 more enemy fighters that same morning. His sniping partner accounted for 2 more. That was the Mark 13 doing what it was built to do: cold bore, first round hit, 800 meters, in the middle of an active urban war zone. Now flip the scenario. Ramadi, 2006. Kyle is on point, leading a stack of SEALs through a house clearing operation supporting an Army National Guard unit. He has the Mark 12 Mod 1 in his hands at one point during this tour, but the principle is the same. Tight rooms, doors, contact at 15 feet. This is where the bolt action stays slung on his back and the semi-auto comes off safe. You do not snipe a man through a doorway. You suppress him, you flank him, and you put fast, accurate fire on target until the room is yours. That is why 2 rifles, 1 for the math problems, 1 for the knife fights. Of course, no conversation about Chris Kyle is complete without mentioning the shot that defined him in the public imagination. 2008, outside Sadr City, an insurgent on a rooftop with an RPG aimed at a U.S. Army convoy. Distance 2,100 yards. That's just over 1 1/10 miles. The rifle Kyle used for that shot wasn't the Mark 11 and it wasn't the Mark 13. It was a Macmillan TAC 338, chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum, a different beast entirely, designed specifically for extreme long-distance work where the 300 Win Mag starts running out of steam. The bullet took about 3 seconds to reach the target and dropped roughly 100 feet over the course of its flight. Kyle, to his credit, never claimed it was anything but luck. He didn't expect to hit. He just hoped the round would land close enough to spook the man off the trigger. It didn't. It hit. The convoy rolled on. But that shot is the exception, not the rule. The vast majority of Kyle's 160 confirmed kills happened inside 1,000 yards, and the vast majority of them happened with the Mark 13 Mod 0. The Mark 11 covered the close work and the patrols. The Mark 13 carried the long-distance mission-critical engagements. So what made these 2 rifles so deadly together? It came down to coverage. Every distance from contact range to more than 1,000 yards was covered by one of the 2 weapons. Every situation, from a controlled Overwatch hide to a 10-second house clearing, had a rifle dialed in for it. The Knight's armament suppressor system meant Kyle could keep his signature low across both platforms. The loopholed and Night Force optics meant his glass was as good as anything in the world at the time, and the crane-built specifications meant both rifles were tuned for the exact conditions he was going to face. A lot of new shooters look at this loadout and think the magic is in the gear. It isn't. The magic is in the man behind the rifles, knowing exactly which one to pick up at which moment. Kyle drilled that decision tree until it was reflexive. SEAL snipers still drill it today. The Mark 11 for the patrol, the Mark 13 for the shot that has to land cold. First round, no second chances. The legacy of these 2 rifles goes well beyond Kyle himself. The SR-25 platform evolved into the M110 semi-automatic sniper system, which is now the standard designated marksman rifle across multiple branches of the U.S. military. The Remington 700 lineage that produced the Mark 13 is still alive in dozens of variants used by SEALs, Marine Scout snipers, and Army Special Forces. The 300 Win Mag remains one of the most respected long-range military cartridges in service. When you watch the film American Sniper, the rifles you see Bradley Cooper carrying are real. Knight's armament built the production guns, Macmillan made the stocks. The same companies that armed Kyle in Iraq armed the actor who played him on screen. Chris Kyle was murdered at a Texas shooting range in February 2013, killed by a fellow veteran he was trying to help. He never got to see the film about his life. He never got to see the way his name became inseparable from the weapons he carried. But those weapons are still doing the job today. The Mark 11 is on patrols across the world. The Mark 13 and its descendants are on Overwatch missions in places most civilians will never know about. 2 rifles, 1 operator, one of the deadliest combinations in the history of modern warfare. If you found this breakdown valuable, consider subscribing for more deep dives into weapons, operators, and missions that shape modern military history. There is a lot more to cover, and many more rifles with stories worth telling. Until next time.